name is Jessica Hickmott. I'm a medical practitioner. I've been seeing Keith Hulstaert as a patient for the last 5 months, and I was referred to Keith by Leslie Thomas, who was my counsellor in Malvern Private, which was the rehab facility that I went to treat drug addiction. You know, one of the things that came up for me while I was in rehab was that I didn't have drugs anymore to deal with, you know, my stress and emotional problems. And, you know, I started remembering things and re-experiencing emotions and re-experiencing traumatic events. And I felt scraped raw. I felt like things had been revealed to me that I didn't have the capacity to deal with without being able to use drugs. And that was the only coping mechanism at that time that I knew. And I needed something else. I needed to know that I could actually address the emotional issues, or I felt that there would be no way that I would be able to stay clean. And Leslie said, I hear you. And you know, there is a way that you will be able to not feel this way anymore, and you'll be able to get some of your skin back. And so she referred me to Keith Hulstaert, and I started seeing Keith in February of 2017. And then, you know, my life, my recovery, all of my relationships, just everything has been on a very swift upwards trajectory since then. I mean, it seems crazy now to think that so many things had to happen before that denial was lifted from me. You know, because I was a medical practitioner, I was, you know, had ways of obtaining medications. I probably had more access than the average non-medical person. And I was doing things to gain access to prescriptions that were very abnormal. And, you know, each prescription that I would sort of get to the end of, I would say, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. But then, you know, I would feel incredibly anxious and be sweating and, you know, felt that I wanted to die. So I would keep using. But you know, there were various times throughout my adulthood, like probably in my 30s, when I realized this is a problem. This is not how other people approach their lives. But I didn't really realize that I had a drug addiction until, you know, some pretty dramatic things happened at the end of my use. And, you know, those things included causing a major car accident, overdosing, requiring resuscitation. It was a very grisly, messy end to my using. Before, I used to be really scared about who I was. I always felt, you know, so ashamed of myself and so wrong and so uncomfortable. And now, like, I have a real sense of acceptance about who I am, and I want to know things. You know, my son and I are enjoying this amazing relationship now. My son is 6, and he's sad, he's angry, he's frustrated, and he's able to tell me about it. And he's able to tell me when I am triggering some of those feelings in him. And it's wonderful. And it's information that I want. I want to know everything now. And I was too scared before. So yeah, it's hugely different. I used to be addicted. I used to have this, I used to think that I needed to use drugs. I used to think that, like, I constantly needed to be out of my body. I needed to stop my thoughts. I needed to change my feelings. You know, I was like driven, I was propelled to use drugs. And that propulsion, it isn't there anymore. So I don't think I'm addicted now. I can never, you know, safely use mind-altering substances. but I don't feel like I am addicted now, because the emotional drivers that told me that I needed to use they're not there anymore. That feeling of being, an insecure, scared little kid, which is how I felt, that's how I knew I needed to use drugs, because I didn't want to feel that way anymore. And I'm just not that person anymore. Like, I am an empowered adult most of the time. The advice that I would give to anyone with a substance abuse problem or a substance issue is, if you don't know if you have one, be curious about it. I was stuck in denial for a really long time because I was too scared to think properly about whether I was or wasn't, and that kept me from getting help for a really long time. I feel really lucky because I was able to go to a wonderful inpatient rehab facility that had an outpatient program as well, and then being referred to Keith Hulstaert through one of my counselors at Malvern Private. I really feel like it's changed my life in ways that I find difficult to describe sufficiently to other people. But I know the changes are there, and everyone in my life can see it, and they reflect it back to me. There is so much possibility, and there is so much scope for change. Like, I never thought that I would be capable of change. I never thought that I would be capable of feeling the way that I feel now. I really thought that I was trapped, and I thought, okay, I'm a drug addict, this is it, this is my whole life. It's sort of telescoped down to this really tiny, narrow place. And now I feel like there are so many possibilities. And the life that I have now, since being in recovery, is so much better than what I had before. Yeah, I feel incredibly grateful, and I want people to know that not only can you survive drug addiction, but you can be joyful, you can experience real happiness, and everything that you thought that you were trapped by before, you aren't. You can be free.